Nike that included the national flower of the Philippines. That's so cool.
One small flower with 5 white petals, no bigger than a fingernail, carefully embroidered onto a simple hair tie. At first glance, it seems almost too ordinary to notice. Yet, that tiny accessory is the reason you're here watching this video. The title promised a Nike gift that sent fans into a frenzy. And when you finally see the gift for yourself, it looks surprisingly modest. No expensive jewelry, no limited edition sneakers, no flashy announcement, just a delicate flower stitched onto a hair tie. But sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest stories. And this one would soon become far more meaningful than anyone expected.
That was actually a surprise for me. The message behind it was great. And I was like wearing my little flower. Oh my God.
It may be the smallest gift Nike has ever presented to Alexandra Eala, but that was precisely what made it so powerful. The tiny embroidered Sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, was never meant to impress with its price or size. Instead, it represented identity, home, and the quiet pride of millions of Filipinos. When Eala stepped onto center court at Wimbledon during the summer of 2025, wearing that simple hair tie, she didn't need to explain its meaning. She never gave a speech or made a grand statement. The flower spoke for itself, for a global Filipino community that rarely sees its culture represented on one of tennis's biggest stages. That small symbol became an unmistakable reminder that they belonged there too. Since that unforgettable moment, Nike and Eala have continued building on the idea behind that single embroidered flower, transforming what began as a simple accessory into a lasting symbol of national pride and cultural identity. To understand why this hair tie matters so much, you only need 3 key facts. First, when Nike presented the original gift in July 2025, the handwritten note included a message in Tagalog rather than simply translating an English greeting. According to tennis.com on July 1st, 2025, the card featured a Filipino proverb that translates to, "What you plant today, you will one day harvest," a message about patience, sacrifice, and believing in the future. Second, only 4 days before the events discussed in this video, on June 21st, 2026, Alexandra Eala reached the Eastbourne final, but fell to Maya Joint in a dramatic 6-4, 1-6, 7-6 championship match decided by a 10-point tiebreak, marking the second consecutive year she lost the same final to the same opponent. Third, as of June 20th, 2026, Eala stood as the WTA World number 30, making her the highest-ranked Southeast Asian woman in professional tennis. Those 3 facts, a meaningful proverb, a heartbreaking defeat, and a historic ranking, form the foundation of this story. Now, this is where many stories about sponsor gifts become overly simplistic, and it's important not to make that mistake. Nike is a global company, and creating a Sampaguita-themed accessory for one of the Philippines' biggest sporting stars was undoubtedly a smart marketing decision in a nation of more than 110 million people, with one of the world's largest diasporas. There were meetings, creative teams, and marketing plans behind it. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that reality. But the more interesting question isn't whether it was marketing. It's whether something created partly to promote a brand can still become genuinely meaningful to the people who embrace it. And there's another question that follows Alexandra Eala onto every court she steps on. Can a young athlete continue carrying a symbol that represents an entire nation without allowing that responsibility to become overwhelming? Because the Sampaguita no longer represents only a flower. It represents hope, expectation, and the dreams of millions. That's an enormous burden for any 21-year-old player trying to focus on a second serve while facing breakpoint. Tennis is supposed to be decided by movement, strategy, and execution. But once you wear a symbol that connects you to an entire country, every victory feels bigger, and every loss carries extra weight. Throughout this story, both realities exist together. The marketing is real, And so is the emotional connection people have formed with this small embroidered flower. They don't erase one another. They exist side by side, creating a story that is far more fascinating than either one alone. And it all began with a single object. On July 1st, 2025, Alexandra Eala walked onto center court at Wimbledon for the very first time in her career to face defending champion Barbara Krejcikova, wearing a simple hair tie that would soon become far more significant than anyone could have imagined. Barbara Krejcikova stood on the opposite side of the net, but for Alexandra Eala, that Wimbledon match represented far more than a first-round contest. She became the first Filipina in history to compete in a Wimbledon main draw singles match on center court, marking a milestone that extended well beyond tennis. Tucked into her hair was a simple white Nike hair tie featuring a single embroidered Sampaguita flower. It was so small that most television viewers would never have noticed it unless someone pointed it out. According to tennis.com, that understated accessory was the original Nike gift. Ironically, its tiny size was exactly what made it unforgettable. A large logo would have looked like an advertisement. The Sampaguita felt different. It wasn't trying to demand attention. It quietly earned it. Yet the hair tie was only part of the gift. The handwritten note that accompanied it carried an even deeper meaning. As quoted by tennis.com on July 1st, 2025, it read in part, "Every dream begins as a seed, and what you plant you'll one day reap." It continued by describing a Filipina standing on the historic grass courts, not only for herself, but carrying an entire nation in full bloom. Those words mattered because Nike chose not to rely on a generic motivational slogan. Instead, the message embraced Filipino culture, even incorporating Tagalog in a way that felt personal rather than promotional. It spoke in a language connected to family traditions, childhood memories, and generations of heritage. That decision made the gift feel authentic in a way that standard marketing rarely achieves. The Sampaguita itself carried symbolism that long predates any endorsement deal. Officially recognized as the national flower of the Philippines since 1934, the jasmine blossom has traditionally represented purity, devotion, loyalty, and promises faithfully kept. Its name is commonly associated with the phrase, "I promise you," reflecting values that have been woven into Filipino life for generations. The flower appears at graduations, weddings, religious ceremonies, and family celebrations, making it far more than a decorative plant. When Alexandra Eala stepped on a center court, wearing it, the flower symbolized something deeply personal, a commitment to her family, her roots, and every young Filipino dreaming that one day they might stand on the same stage. Those 5 delicate petals carried a promise much larger than themselves. And that promise only continued to grow. What began as one embroidered hair tie gradually evolved into something much bigger. By early 2026, the Sampaguita had expanded beyond a private gift into a recognizable design language shared by Nike and Eala. It was no longer simply an accessory worn during matches. It had become a symbol that people instantly connected with her journey. In late February 2026, Eala traveled to Nike's global headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon, as one of the company's international ambassadors. According to reporting from ABS-CBN and Sunstar Devo, Nike welcomed her with a Sampaguita-inspired installation celebrating her achievements. The display featured custom Nike by You shoes decorated with blooming floral artwork, references to her breakthrough performances, imagery inspired by the US Open, and subtle elements of the Philippine flag woven into the overall design. The tiny flower that once lived quietly on a hair tie had grown into an entire visual experience. It appeared on shoes, walls, displays, and artwork throughout the campus. The symbol had evolved from a personal accessory into a complete creative identity. Soon afterward, it reached fans as well. During the spring and summer of 2026, reports shared across Reddit's r/tennis community and Philippine Stars social media highlighted Nike's release of a full-bloom t-shirt in the Philippines using the same Sampaguita-inspired design language that Eala had introduced on court. Filipino fans quickly embraced it, purchasing and proudly wearing the collection themselves. That moment changed everything. The flower was no longer something that belonged only to Alexandra Eala. It had become a shared symbol connecting athlete and supporters. The same design that appeared in her hair now appeared on thousands of fans across the country and throughout the Filipino diaspora. The relationship between player and supporters became visible in a new way because they were now carrying the same emblem together. But symbols are easiest to celebrate during moments of victory. Their true meaning is tested during defeat. That test arrived on June 21st, 2026, when Alexandra Eala returned to the Eastbourne final to face Maya Joint, the very opponent who had denied her the title the previous year after an unforgettable championship match, in which Eala had held 4 championship points before the opportunity slipped away. According to ESPN, history placed both players back on the same court once again, setting the stage for another emotionally charged final that would reveal whether the meaning behind the Sampaguita could remain just as powerful in defeat as it had become in victory. The 2026 Eastbourne final turned into another heartbreaking battle. Alexandra Eala and Maya Joint once again pushed each other to the limit, with the championship ultimately decided by a dramatic 10-point match tiebreak. The final score read 6-4, 1-6, 7-6, and despite saving multiple match points and refusing to surrender, Eala fell just short of the title for the second consecutive year. The same tournament, the same opponent, and once again the same painful result. Through every emotional moment, the small embroidered Sampaguita remained on her wrist. That is what transformed it from a simple accessory into a genuine symbol. Anyone can proudly wear a flower while lifting a trophy. Its true meaning is revealed when it remains there after defeat, when the cameras move on, when the champion celebrates, and when the runner-up quietly walks away carrying both disappointment and hope. 3 days later, on June 24th, 2026, the story took another remarkable turn. The WTA officially announced on Instagram that Alexandra Eala would partner tennis legend Venus Williams in the Wimbledon 2026 doubles draw. In the span of just 1 year, the young Filipina who had first stepped onto center court wearing a tiny embroidered flower would now share the court with one of the greatest champions the sport has ever produced. The Sampaguita did not need to become louder or more extravagant. The company it now kept spoke volumes on its own. Every part of this journey is supported by documented sources rather than speculation. Nike's original handwritten gift note was published by Tennis.com on July 1st, 2025, preserving both the Tagalog proverb and the message describing a Filipina carrying a nation in full bloom. The words were printed exactly as written, turning what could have been dismissed as a marketing story into a documented moment. Eala herself reinforced that meaning through her Instagram post following her Wimbledon debut, describing the hair tie as a reminder of where she came from and everything that had shaped her journey. Those were not interpretations from fans or commentators. They were her own words. The visit to Nike's global headquarters in Beaverton was also extensively covered by veteran ABS-CBN sports journalist Diane Castillo on February 27, 2026, with additional reporting from Sunstar Devo confirming the details. Meanwhile, Tennis 365 journalist Kevin Palmer later observed that Eala's growing popularity had created a significant commercial opportunity, suggesting that her expanding sponsorship profile was drawing attention well beyond the Philippines. Taken together, the evidence is clear. The handwritten note exists. The custom shoes exist. The Sampaguita collection exists. The flower itself exists. The Eastbourne defeat exists. The Venus Williams partnership exists. The story isn't built on rumors. It is built on documented events. Looking beyond one athlete and one sponsorship, the larger picture becomes even more compelling. The Philippines represents one of the world's most important markets for athletic footwear, while millions of Filipinos living across North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia form one of the largest and most widespread diasporas anywhere. For many years, Filipinos often celebrated international athletes representing other countries while still sharing Filipino heritage. Alexandra Eala's rise feels different because she competes directly under the Philippine flag. The Sampaguita became a uniquely Filipino symbol, quietly entering one of sport's most tradition-bound stages. There is an irony in that design. Wimbledon has enforced its famous all-white clothing rule for generations, minimizing obvious national colors and symbols on court. Yet the Sampaguita fits those rules perfectly. Its white petals blend seamlessly into Wimbledon's dress code, while still carrying unmistakable cultural meaning for anyone who recognizes it. It doesn't break tradition. It works within it. That subtle brilliance is part of what made the symbol resonate so deeply. Across Instagram, Threads, Reddit, and countless social media discussions, Filipino fans repeatedly expressed the same emotion. For the first time, they truly felt represented on center court. That feeling cannot be measured by sales figures or sponsorship values, but it remains one of the most powerful parts of the story. At the same time, that pride comes with responsibility. Every young Filipino who saw the Sampaguita and felt inspired was watching a 21-year-old athlete experience another heartbreaking defeat in Eastbourne. While millions celebrated what the flower represented, Alexandra Eala still had to process the disappointment of losing the same championship to the same opponent for a second straight season. That contrast is what gives the symbol its lasting meaning. It represents triumph and heartbreak together, reminding everyone that the strongest symbols are not defined only by victory, but by the determination to keep wearing them even after defeat. The Eastbourne Championship was ultimately decided by a dramatic 10-point match tiebreak, and throughout every rally, every pressure point, and every emotional moment, the small embroidered Sampaguita remained on Alexandra Eala's wrist. That detail matters because symbols earn their meaning not only in moments of celebration, but also in moments of disappointment. When discussing her reaction afterward, it's important to stay with the verified record. The only confirmed public comments we have following an Eastbourne final defeat come from 2025, not 2026, and that distinction deserves to be respected. After her first heartbreaking loss to Maya Joint in 2025, Eala shared a message on Instagram, later reported by Tennis.com, writing, "This has to be one of the toughest losses of my early career. But I firmly believe that it's these moments that make you stronger and shape your character." Those are her documented words from 2025. There is no verified public statement from her following the 2026 final. And rather than speculate or invent a quote, it's more honest to acknowledge that absence. Sometimes silence tells its own story. What we do know is the schedule. Only a few days after the disappointment in Eastbourne, Wimbledon was set to begin around June 30th, 2026. There was little time to dwell on the defeat because the grass courts of the All England Club were waiting once again. The journey continued, and with it, so did the Sampaguita. So, what does that small flower truly represent? Remove the rankings. Remove the sponsorship deals. Remove the custom Nike shoes, the partnership with Venus Williams, and even the heartbreak of Eastbourne. What remains is a tiny white flower embroidered onto a simple hair tie, no larger than a fingernail. To most television viewers watching Wimbledon, it may appear to be nothing more than an ordinary accessory, but for millions of Filipinos around the world, it represents something far deeper. It is a promise. It is heritage. It is the quiet reminder of home carried onto one of the biggest stages in world sport. The meaning of the Sampaguita has never depended on rankings that will eventually change or trophies that will someday belong to someone else. Its lasting significance lies in visibility. It gave countless Filipino children, from Manila to Jersey City, from Riyadh to Milan, and everywhere the Filipino diaspora has built a home, the chance to see a piece of their own culture represented at Wimbledon. For many of them, the first time they recognized their national flower on the sport's most famous grass courts, it was being worn by a 21-year-old athlete who looked like them and proudly represented their country. That is the legacy of Nike's simple gift. It is not measured by how much the company invested or by how many matches Alexandra Eala ultimately won. It is measured by the inspiration it gave to young fans who suddenly believed that they, too, belonged on tennis's biggest stage. Sometimes the greatest impact comes from the smallest symbol. If this story meant something to you, leave the word Sampaguita in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Whether you're in the Philippines, part of the global Filipino diaspora, or simply someone who appreciates stories that connect sport with culture, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe, because as Wimbledon 2026 begins, the little white flower is returning to the grass courts once again. This time, however, the entire tennis world understands exactly what it represents.